No, I won't. They will have to lock for you.
Awesome. Just remember, it's Sunday Night Football, 8:20.
Who plays tonight?
Jacksonville and Miami, big
Yeah.
hitters.
Well, you better be a gambler or a fantasy player to get it out. Are they?
Oh, looks like Scott Rescue is logging in.
I will be here for the next meeting, but I'll have to leave at 45. That's school board meeting at 7.
Look solid.
There you go. And the next meeting, I'll be here at 6.
Me too. I'm there at 5:30.
Scott Rescue's here.
Good.
Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Clock. Yeah, 15 seconds it will be. All right. Keep going. And we'll call the September meeting of the Pendleton Redevelopment Commission to order. Roll call. Determination of quorum. Over to you, Dave.
Here.
You're gonna hear?
Craig Campbell here.
Bill Hutton here.
We have 3 voting board members and Bill. So we will have a quorum.
Bill.
Our advisor. School board rep, Bill.
That's okay.
Approval of minute of the meeting minutes from last meeting. Has everybody had a chance to read it?
Yep. I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from August.
We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions about that? Hearing none. All in favor of the minute, approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes pass. Old business. Kayla, do you have an update on the community sports center or?
No.
Okay. Looks like it's doing all right. I was out there the other day.
Nice to see the asphalt go down.
Yeah, and walls up and windows going in and all that good stuff, so. Nothing on the interstate quadrant plan?
No, not beyond our focus group meetings this afternoon.
Yeah. God, you want to say anything about that?
No, it was, yes. It was very good participation, a lot of good input. So I think there's some issues that staff needs to probably work with a consultant on, but at this point, it's a good place to start, and we'll keep moving forward. I think there's some, I do think we need to push the consultants a little bit harder. You know, they gave us the textbook answers, but I don't know that that's what we want. We want to push them a little bit harder and beyond that. We're going to make them earn their money, in other words.
Agreed.
Yeah. 100%.
I have a question. Do we have a time frame on the market analysis?
They're gonna present to us in October. Now, that won't be the final, but they're gonna, as I understand it, Ken and someone else, probably Alan or Juan,
Yes, I believe so.
they'll come and present something in October. I don't think it's the final one though.
Okay.
So that's probably a good point, Scott. If we have questions about this, that would be a really good time to pose them to those folks. Was any of that recorded today?
I believe all of it was. We tend to record our Zoom meetings. Hopefully.
If you didn't get it, if you weren't able to watch them or attend, maybe you could catch one of the recordings, because there was some really good input.
One of the other things I wanted to add, I'd be interested in seeing the report on their perspective for pre and post COVID as retail and industrial and everything's changing. their homework and where they're going with that and what they're thinking. So that's going to be, there's all types of different market analysis right now, pre and post COVID, and how retail's changing and how businesses are changing.
All right, we got anything else on that? Nothing else, we'll move on to the revolving loan fund program. So Dave and I took on the task of looking at the revolving loan fund that the RDC established a couple of years ago and has never been used. So we were given a look as to maybe why and if it was too onerous or something. Dave did a lot of homework, did a lot of poured through the all the documents for it. Dave and I also met with Gary Erskine, who was a Star Bank employee, and got his take on, he read through the whole thing. He gave us a bunch of tips and ideas. So Dave, you've been running with this ball. Why don't you take it from here and bring us up to speed on your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think in reviewing the resolution and ordinance, you know, I was reading one and before reading the other, and then you start writing these notes down, things that you think it should be added, and then you read an ordinance or vice versa, and then you say, well, it was over here, but it wasn't over here. So they're not necessarily mirroring each other and consistent. And then obviously, if nobody's using it, nobody knows about it, and it ain't being marketed. And I think we need to develop, you know, what is our goal of this and who we want to reach. There's many different branches, all the branches of it. You know, I wrote down some stuff like, you know, what's our mission, and, you know, local resources that enhances economic opportunity, that's sustainable in our community. What's our goal? You know, are we going to take this money and take a portion of it and use it for remodel, still remodeling the front of buildings, and then leaves 80 or 90% over here for job enhancement or job creation? Do we do a phase one? Do we do a phase two? Do we wait till we get this report from Kimberly Horn and tie it in with a phase two marketing analysis? You know, I know Mr. Reski's got some different thoughts, and we're trying to, you know, get on the same page as the town manager. You know, I think it was so narrow. You know, do we expand the zone? Does people have to have a business plan? You know, I think somebody, if we're going to give free money and it's going to be considered forgivable, we should at least have a 2-year business plan. And do we make it where maybe it's a match? If we're giving $25,000 as a 90-10, so they have a little bit of skin in the game, not somebody who gets started and you have all good intentions, but then you get all the way through and they don't finish the project. They have a little bit of skin in the game, then they might have, we have to finish the project. We want to see projects from start to finish and a good, something that fits into our community. And I thought maybe you could even tie in create some excitement in the community. Like you could maybe do a slogan or a t-shirt or market it to create some excitement. And one of the slogans I wrote down was your needs, Pilna, your needs are a priority, inspire and passion within our community. And maybe tie it into create some excitement on what we're trying to do. Also enhance the infrastructure from 67 coming in town and also from 69 coming in town. How can we increase that infrastructure going both ways to beautify our city and make it, keep the small town feel. That's just things I was kind of thinking out loud and thought we would kind of bounce it off the committee and then see what it articulates into other ideals from everybody else. But I do, you know, I think whatever money we give, if we don't have some type of accountability and criteria with it, when we give this money out, the town of Pilna is going to be responsible. You know, and then which banks are available to use, and are we going to limit to which banks or credit unions, and which banks actually want to be involved in it?
Okay, so the gist of this was, since I was the only one on the commission at the time to create this type of bill, it came on the heels of the Oprah grant that the town got to fix up the buildings, and they chose 5 of the buildings for the Oprah money to be used on those buildings, and then we decided, what if we do a revolving loan fund where the other building owners could use that money to fix up their building? That was the genesis of this thing. And no one ever used it. Now, did we market it enough? Probably not. Did they not have the desire to do it, fix up the buildings? The emphasis not there? I don't know. But, and Dave touched on this, and I think it's an important point. What is the goal? While we're redoing this thing, is the goal still to use it to fix up buildings in downtown Pendleton? Or is it a different goal? For instance, when Gary and Dave and I met, as we started talking about this, Gary suggested, he said maybe a better use of funds to fix up buildings would be a grant thing that actually Gail and Rachel have been working on for a while, and use this money for new startup businesses, somebody that wants to put a brand new building. Completely remodel another building that would take large funds. So I think it was a well-intentioned thing for the town, but maybe the reason no one's using it is no one knows why they would use it. And so I think we need to think about this. No decisions are going to be made tonight, but we wanted to bring this to you, and we'll kick this around for the next couple of meetings, I would imagine. But what are we going to use this thing for? Or do we not even need it? Is it a necessary thing? Is it an unnecessary thing? If it's necessary, is it necessary for its original intent, or has that changed? Rachel has been working on getting us into the food and beverage tax. Kickback's the wrong word. Don't write that down. Kickback money.
Yes,
Distribution. Thank you. From the food and beverage tax in Madison County, and she got us in. Now we won't see anything for a year, and because of COVID, we won't see what we would be brought in at. Do you know what that number is? 100K, something like that. 250. She said it might be 100K this go around, but normally it would be $250,000, I think, if it stays consistent. So we have that now to consider too. That's money that can be used for fixing up buildings, and maybe you only need $5,000 to get your building paid, $10,000. You don't need $250,000. So it always struck me as we thought this was the most excellent idea that it was ever created, and no one stepped forward to use it. One of the other things was we got to work closer with the PBA, the Pendleton Business Association. Let the business owners know, so they can go to their building owners, if they're not the building owner, and say, hey, can we fix up the building? There's some money for this. But what do we do with this thing? Steve, what are your thoughts? You're a business owner.
I like what David said about, I think part of it would be if I had a business plan available, I just don't think you just need to ask for this money. I think you have to have a model that you're going to use it for. And
that was always in the
okay. And I also like the part of maybe you do have to have a little skin in the game. I agree. That usually works with anything you do in life. So I'm definitely in favor of that. How much money is there available right now?
There's nothing available right now. What we were going to do was put out a bond, and there would be if memory serves, there would have been 500,000 in the account. That's correct. And you could borrow up to 25,000 max.
And that's going to be to facelift the outside of your building?
Well, actually,
That's what I was talking about between the resolution and the ordinance. One just talks about the face of the building. The other one talks about job creation and other things and business enhancement.
it's pretty broad, actually.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I'm just saying that's quite a difference, the
Yeah.
job creation versus
like
Facades.
on the ordinance, it talks about the historic downtown, the faucets and improvements, and then on the resolution, it's talking about attracting new major business to the town, upgrading the parents of the town, retain, create new job in the town.
You have the application?
Yeah, and the applications.
Read the list of, right there, the bullet points.
Yeah, it talks about the interior improvements, architectural assistance, building construction, window repair, materials, building interior improvements, awning, land acquisitions, historical review, lighting, labor, cleaning, masonry work, paint, and landscaping. That looks more like a building enhancement than it does job creation.
It's a very broad, maybe too broad thing. And so what do we do with this thing?
And, you know, and we was talking, you know, possibly the idea of phase 1 or phase 2. If phase 2 is tied in with the Kimley-Horn report, sometimes big businesses create small businesses. You might have a big business opened up and it might be somebody here local is in our community that it creates an ideal for a small business. And that's what we're trying to do is I think create small business owners and communities that what Pilden has right now. So sometimes big businesses create small businesses.
And the money that we will eventually be getting, that's just for facade work, correct? The outside of your building?
No, everything you read
That's what
off
I'm
there
saying,
would be eligible.
I'm talking about the new money that we secured through the.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's,
I thought Rachel had told me it was for the facade
It would be
outside.
mainly for facade
Okay.
work.
so we have funds for the facade. Eventually we will.
Right.
That's the reason why I was thinking, well, you could always, you know, depending on what the town manager and what we all decide together, that maybe you do this much of it for business creation and existing businesses enhancement and leave this portion over here for still some building repair. If it's 400,000 here and 100,000 here, I don't know. I mean, you got so many different parts of our community here, and like she said, the business association and you know, I don't know the full vision of the town manager. You might have a completely different idea.
Do you have any thoughts on it right now, Scott? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, what was it that you just said before that? You said something just before that, and I was interrupted. Could you say it again?
That, you know, maybe you take the 500,000, you make 100,000 towards still redoing in front of buildings and stuff, and leave 400.
And leave what? I just lost you guys. I can't hear you anymore.
Scott, did you hear that?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Now we can.
It's the oddest thing. If I turn off the mute so I can talk to you, then I don't hear you. So, no, I don't have an opinion on that yet. I mean, I'm interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are, and how the brainstorming goes. So I'm sitting back and just listening to what you guys are saying. So I haven't really formed an opinion yet.
Okay.
So one of the other, okay, so let's do some brainstorming. One of the other points that Gary pointed out was, is specify what zone qualifies for the loan. We are in charge of the TIF district. The TIF district now runs from 69 to 67, predominantly down through town. And he also said, check with, I didn't know you do all building permits?
I am slowly transitioning them over to our new building inspector, Brett Mabry. However, at the moment, I do still issue most of the permits.
Gary said, check the building permits. Greater or fewer in the downtown area. So good question. Are we getting requests for building updates or building permits of any kind in the downtown, in the TIF district.
Yeah, and I think all you have to do is take a quick walk around our downtown area to see how many of these buildings have construction activity going on in them right now. The garage unit, which is being outfitted for commercial space next to Fallsburg Coffee House, is about to come online as a commercial space. Nameless Catering, that old building, has been sold to a resident, and it's going to be opened up as a bakery restaurant, and you can see the investment going into that building right now. Additionally, Row Properties has purchased the 2 old McKay buildings right here across the alley from the old Nameless Catering, and they have completely gutted and ripped down the lower facade, which had been, covered up with awning, and they are restoring those facades, and they're going to be building them out to suit here as they attract tenants. It's my understanding anyway. I think it's a work in progress, but I think that would actually be a great example to say how might a gentleman like John Oliver make use of this fund. Facades one thing, but there's a whole lot more going on there.
And one of the things we gotta keep in mind is that we're gonna have at some point develop an eligibility and also a criteria, who meets that eligibility, and there has to be a level or a benchmark somewhere.
No, I think approaching the business people around here and trying to get a view of what they would really see as a need for them. I'm sure they've got something that they have on their wish list, and it just hasn't come out yet. And that might open up a whole lot of different ideas. So I think contacting them, looking, and I know you have been, but
Not really, so good point. Good point.
like I said, I'm sure they've got an idea or whatever, and that may spur somebody else to come up with an idea.
So Steve, your thoughts?
I think I'm with Dave. I think we need to clean these 2 documents up to have them mirror each other more, which we can amend through the town council. And then I think that's our first step. One of the first steps is to have these 2 cleaned up a little bit and mirrored. And then we need to get with Julie Schnepp, president of the Middleton Business Association, sit down with her and have her go input on this.
That was gonna be my next suggestion. Do we need to meet with them and
Yeah.
say,
Do you think so, Dave?
from a business perspective, what's wrong with it? Or do you just?
What do you
just
want?
didn't know about
What's
it?
missing?
What's missing? Do you want to add, or do you think it's good? Or
That was one of my questions to Gary. He read the whole thing, and I said, "Is this thing onerous?" He said, "Not necessarily. I've seen worse." And so, from a banker's perspective, he didn't think that would hold someone back from saying, "Yes, I want to do that application." But maybe a business owner might say, "Well, wait a minute, you forgot this."
absolutely. So I think that's our first couple steps that we need to get rolling. And we definitely can get that done by the next meeting. What do you think, Mr. Graham? Is that?
Well, you are certainly aimless if your resolution, your ordinance don't agree. I mean, you get into the problem is, what the military call it, mission creep. You really want to define what you want, and it's going to confuse a business owner even more if they happen to see those 2 things and throw their hands up. So, yeah, figure out what the redevelopment commission wants to target through the fund, and I don't know from a business sense, but then have all your documents reflected, and you guys nailed it. I wasn't aware of that thing until I came onto the representing the town. So hey, we're trying to give you money. That's going to be attractive. It's just I think the term revolving fund frightens some people. The revolving fund. That's a less sophisticated small business owner, I don't want to mess with that. That sounds like a lot of paperwork. So I think we have a marketing job as well as a tightening of our goals to do to attract the type of businesses that we want to take advantage of the program.
Honestly, you know, as a business owner, if I could get $20,000 to do something with my business and I have to put in 2,000 of it myself, that's a nice incentive. That's a pretty good deal.
You're not gonna get that deal.
Right, right.
I'll just tell you that in my past experience dealing in food and beverage money grants like that, that's extraordinarily generous. Usually the match is more like 50-50. And so, you know, it'd be great to be able to do that for a worthy cause, but, you know, we don't have to beg them to take our money too badly.
Exactly. Okay.
But I think we're in a period right now for probably another year where the small business people, really, if there's any extra nickels, they should get it.
Yes, sir. I
You know,
agree.
one of the things I wanted to throw out there too, just taking as a visionary, Kimberly Horn, that we're talking about economic anchors. And one of the most pivotal things is what anchors that they market to and bring can dedicate what type of retail and other businesses you bring. And that could push you one way or push you another way. So I think that whatever their ideals that they articulate into these anchors are important. I mean, if you get just an industrial anchor, then you're not creating anything. If it's what anchors you bring on either side of the town are going to dedicate what business model you have. So I think it's real important, not just increasing your tax base, but like your future development. And if you're trying to keep the same small town feel in Pendleton, I think those anchors are going to play a big role. And I think that's something that we really have to really put our eyes on as we get this market report.
I made a real point about that today. The wellness center is the anchor on this. And that whole quadrant around it is now, will be through this as the wellness area.
That thing about the wellness center, it's not really a business anchor that's actually generating a large tax base and generating other economic development in the community. That's you know what you're looking at. We're increasing the bloodline that drives traffic to downtown businesses, and that's a different type of an anchor. And I think we got to be very mindful of what we get. If not, we'll end up with a bunch of industrial out there, and we're not going to create any more than what we have now. I think we got to look at the mix out there. You're going to have housing, residential, small retail, and what type of anchors. Because also when somebody looks at your city, and there may be certain types of industrial businesses people don't want to move close to. Also,
Smelting factory.
I was going to say, that's a good point.
Jeff, how do we deal with the differences between the ordinance and the resolution? Is that legal? Do we need your help with that? Do we do that? How do we do this?
Well, I can do it, but I'll need to know what to write. So I'll need to know what. First off, that is a council function, so it's more Steve's bailiwick. But I do this with hesitancy, but I think I can speak for the councils. They're going to want to know what you think, not necessarily to pass the buck, but this group was put in place for their knowledge about this particular thing, and so the council is going to say, "Yeah, we'll pass it. What do you want?" I think.
Let's do this then. We've got two folks that aren't here tonight. Let me contact those two. I'll see if we can't get all five of us together. Get them the documents, have them read through it, make sure they understand what this is. And let's sit down and go through the resolution and the ordinance. If you're right, it's up to us. It's not, you can write it, but we got to tell them what to say. So we'll sit down and go through it. I'll try to figure a time where we can either Zoom it or meet in the conference room. We can social distance in the big conference room over here, only five of us. Bill, you're more than welcome to come, of course. And let's knock this thing out. Figure out the differences between the two, or do we have to change it completely?
if we have a meeting with 5 members, that's something that needs to be advertised.
Yeah, we'll need a 48-hour notice is all we'll need, and we can put it on that thing, and people can watch you 5 deliberate.
We're more than happy
And give
to set
input.
up this space too with some large tables or something if that would work better.
If the folks want to come in and give input, please do.
Or even just if you guys need more space to socially distance.
I don't think it's that bringing folks like the EPA or anything like that, because we need to get our
That's what I was gonna
ducks
say,
in a row
yeah.
first.
Exactly.
Maybe we get a rough draft and then run it by the attorney and see what he thinks and
Then take it to
give the legal language
Yeah.
correct.
Make sure it hits the statutes with regard to redevelopment commissions. And
I was
but
gonna
what
say-
you just read, that all does. Whoever wrote that followed the statutes well.
So can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear? Okay, so Jeff, why don't you and I huddle up first, and let's do a little bit more homework on this and see if we can't even increase the force multiplier, make it more powerful.
Okay.
Let's do that. Maybe we need to consult with somebody in the banking industry, but also I wanted to go back a little bit. So from my experience, what we need to do is how you apply and use this tool is what we really need to do is do a root cause analysis of, because you don't really have that much in the end, you never do. And so if we do a root cause analysis and whittle down to what is absolutely crucial for economic strength and vitality in the town, where do we need to invest those few dollars? And if we go through that process and whittle it down, we may be surprised what we decide is the keystone or the key thing that we need to invest in, that without that, it makes it hard for any economic development to occur. So so I would highly suggest that is what we do when we brainstorm on how we're going to use this. Maybe sometimes you need to have somebody to come in and guide you, or I could guide you. I used to teach some of this stuff, but anyway, that's my suggestion at this point, listening to what everybody was saying.
So Scott, am I hearing you right that you and Jeff want to take a look at this first? Or
Yeah,
can the commission go ahead and move forward?
Scott, our RDC has done a really good job of taking this and running with it. Dave and Craig have sat down with a banker already.
okay.
Maybe you should sit down with them at some point here, maybe when they all get together, and just catch up, not virtually, so you can hear everything they have to say. I think they answered a lot of your questions.
Okay.
You're welcome.
It was more about Jeff and I going over the what's been written, or is that what you were talking?
Scott, I think what you have in mind is giving these guys a bigger bat to swing around and make it more
Yeah.
powerful, and then
Right.
not dictate the direction, but just to make it more
Right.
powerful.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be great. So, Kayla, what were we going to say?
I don't even remember. Go ahead.
I'm happy to try to I'll talk to the other two on the commission. See if we can get a meeting set, get them the documents. I have them electronically. And get a meeting set so the five of us and Bill sit down and go through this and try to figure out how to smooth out the ordinance and the resolution and any other ideas folks may have for this. It's not something we have to do tomorrow because A, we don't have the money for this right now. But it's a tool that we want to use. So does that sound good to all you folks?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Resolutions, and this is, I guess, a question for Jeff. Jeff, resolutions generally lead to ordinances. Is that correct?
Yeah, the kind of way I always try to, they're not easy to differentiate, but I always say a resolution governs your inner working, an ordinance governs other people. So resolution says this is how we're going to do it, and the ordinance says to the world, this is Yeah, it's an
Okay.
enforcement type mechanism. So
Okay.
resolution would be, this is what we resolved to do with this. And then anything that we'd ask the public to be involved with would be an ordinance. That's the general, how I split them apart.
So there may be language in the resolution that may be different than the language in the ordinance, because we're saying, this is what the RDC wants.
Mhm.
Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner in Pendleton, this is what you need to do to get it.
Correct. Yeah, and they have slightly different functions. So they're going to have, but right now you've got them almost on opposite poles of the, you've almost defined what Dave read, almost as the poles of allowable expenditure of RDC money from one extreme to the other, and they're both out there, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're casting an awful wide net.
Okay. Thank you, Dave, for all your work on this. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Dave.
Anything else on this? Bill? Anybody? All right. Do we have no new business? All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Got a second?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
If you're looking for
Thanks,
something,
Steve.
if you're looking for something to do this evening, the LaPel
I
Town
can't do
Council
it
is getting
during
ready
the
to
day.
meet.
Are they? You want me to go sit on that one too?
Why don't you take my spot, Adam?